we'll be using the cosine of a sum or difference. Cosine of a sum of two angles, or the cosine of the difference between two angles. Keep those formulas handy. I'm going to work through some other examples. We're looking at example 1 here, and they already ask you in the textbook to find the cosine of 15 degrees, the cosine of 5 pi over 12, and others, but they work through those. I thought I'd work through some extra problems just in case you want more practice. So let's take a look at, if we're trying to find the cosine of, since they gave us a positive angle in the example, what if they throw a negative angle at you? How would you find the cosine of negative 75 degrees? The first thing that should go through your mind is that you have not memorized angles of 75 degrees or negative 75 degrees. In this case, you've memorized 0-degree angles, 30, 45, 60, 90, and so on around the unit circle, but not in increments of negative 75 or positive 75 for that matter. So what we have to do in order to use that sum and difference identity, we need to rewrite negative 75 as the sum or difference of two angles that we have memorized. Well, I've memorized 45 degrees, which means I know what negative 45 degrees is because I'm just going in the clockwise direction around the unit circle instead of the counterclockwise direction. I can write negative 75 as negative 45 minus 30. Well, here's my angle A, here's my angle B. I've now rewritten negative 75 as the difference between two angles. So I'll take the cosine of negative 75 and write that as the cosine of A minus B. A is negative 45 degrees minus, and B is 30 degrees. Well, there we go. Now all I have to do is apply that formula. And the formula for the cosine of A minus B, and there's a cute little song and dance to this, and if I was in front of the class, I'd be dancing this. It's cosine, cosine, sine, sine. Can you all say that? Cosine, cosine, sine, sine. In other words, cosine of angle A, cosine of negative 45 degrees, times the cosine of 30 degrees. And because this is a difference, we have a plus sign here. Sine of A, the first angle, sine of negative 45, times the sine of the second angle, the sine of 30. So cosine, cosine, sine, sine. Cosine, cosine, sine, sine. You got to have a little dance to it as you do this. So here's the really cool part. Each one of these, the cosine of an angle is a 3 syllables, 1 word, ratio. The cosine of an angle is a ratio. So this is one ratio times another ratio plus one ratio times another ratio. So I just set up this little template, and I'm going to plug in the ratios that I've memorized because, of course, you've all got the unit circle values memorized, right? Both forwards and backwards, in other words, positive angles and negative angles. The cosine of negative 45 degrees, well, that's going to be in quadrant 4. Cosine is positive in quadrant 4, and the ratio is square root of 2 over 2. So the cosine of negative 45 degrees is this ratio. The cosine of 30 degrees is square root of 3 over 2. The sine of negative 45 degrees, that's the same as the cosine, except because we're in quadrant 4, the sine of sine is going to be negative. The sine of 30 degrees is 1/2. And wow, from here, it's just a matter of multiplying things together. So we've got a product here. Square root of 2 times square root of 3 is square root of 6, all over 2 times 2, which is 4, plus negative square root of 2 times 1. So we've got a negative square root of 2. 2 times 2, denominator is 4. lo and behold, we have a common denominator. That means we can put this entire thing over the same denominator 4. We have square root of 6 minus square root of 2. Square root of 6 minus square root of 2. This is the exact answer of the cosine of negative 75 degrees.